Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is, in fact, the Talamanca Review. You like how crafty and clever I'm getting with this OBS layout? I'm really coming into my own here, and I'm very happy about that. Um, this broadcast is called "The Gates of Hell." Oh, and I am, in fact, live. Yes, I am. Yeah, so this broadcast is called "The Gates of Hell," and it promises to deliver, as I always do. I mean, when have I never delivered for you folks? Do I not always deliver for you folks? Um, and it's no different now. Um, so yesterday's broadcast, generated a lot of good comments, and I want to thank all of you who comment. And I feel as though I've got just a phenomenal group of listeners. As I said to one commenter today, one of my listeners is worth 100,000 Taylor Swift fans in terms of affecting change on this planet. So I'm pretty happy with that. Um, I was going to do this broadcast in the afternoon. I was like supercharged. It all, I guess, sort of came in, is how I would put it. And hey, Chris. Um, and And then I just decided to sit on it for a little while and think about it a little bit more, and that sort of stuff. And I guess you could say I'm kind of glad I did. Um, you know, um, Let me just get my center stage working here. Yeah, there we go. Come on, there we go. Okay, and yeah, I'm happy I did. And there we go. I like it better when the camera is sideways like that. I got this hat in Panama. I was going to talk about some really light and easy stuff and work myself into the show. I gotta, for lack of a better way of putting it, I gotta let the spirit enter into me. Um, I'm finishing up a lot of little projects up here. I painted the whole house. Now, painting an earthbag house is it's a whitewash. Hey, Mark. Um, and whitewash is just lime and water, right? Like, Mark Twain doing the whitewash fence in Tom Sawyer. But it really makes the walls brilliant white and everything. And I'm getting a couple sauna heaters made. So you take an old propane can and you make you can look it up online. Just go propane tank and sauna. And there's a little bit of welding and cutting, and you got to make a little chimney, and you got to put a little basket on the top where the rocks heat up. But I'm gonna get my sauna going. I'm pretty happy about that. Things are really coming together up here. If any of you folks want to come and visit and spend a week or two living with Bruce, you're welcome to do that. Just chip in on the groceries and maybe bring me a gift, something that I can't get over here. It's easy to get Snickers bars here, so don't come with a Snickers bar. I love me a Snicker once or twice a month. I don't know what it is, but the Snicker bar just does it for me. My wife says sneaker. It's funny the way she pronounces things sometimes. My name is Brew McDonald. Brew McDonald. And so I'm looking forward to having a sauna up here. Bob is missing in action. He's visiting with somebody he met on the plane ride over here to Costa Rica. And he's just enjoying himself, and it's really warm in my heart to see him having a good time. Bob's been through more than any human being I know. I can't even put it into words, and it's not just in this world. And he deserves all this happiness. So I like to do little jokes, right? So, like the friend he's with, I have her WhatsApp number, and I sent her a text today, and I said, "Keep an eye on Bob in the ocean. He's not that strong a swimmer." He's a Navy SEAL, right? But I like to do shit like that. It amuses me. I had this sense of humor since I was like 4 years old. I don't know where it comes from. So, yesterday we spoke about a lot of things, and we spoke about going through this fourth dimension in consciousness. And there's good stuff there, there's bad stuff there, there's revelations about ourselves. All of the stuff on us is sitting there. If you have an ancestral curse, it's sitting there. All the hexes on you are sitting there. All the curses of people have put on you from past lives are there, if they're still in power and force. And you got to go in there and defuse all these bombs. It's part of your spiritual work. Like, the biggest deception in religion is that somebody else is going to do it for you. The Jesus is doing that for me. The archangel Gabriel is doing that for me. No, you got to do it. Okay, spirituality is the ultimate form of self-responsibility. At the end of some people are going to take this the wrong way and say I'm being blasphemous, but I'm just going to say it nonetheless. You're God. Okay? God is in you. You're God. To find the God in you, you have to go through these minefields, like the fourth dimension. Okay? And if everybody did it, if everybody did their spiritual homework, if everybody took that form of self-responsibility, and I know it's hard. It took me 55 years to deal with a very strong family curse that I had on me, and most of it got put on me. And curses are sort of like double-edged. If you... Tengo café, mi amor? Rosemary? Tengo café? Oh, porfa. And getting myself a coffee. This is going to be a long one. I might go over an hour today. I got a lot to get done, and I got a bunch of corroborating material to go through to make my case. That's a fantastic book, God is an Economist. Okay, it's up on Amazon. Stolen Child will blow your mind. I kid you not. Okay, Devil and Us, you all know about. That's my nonfiction. The last two were my fiction. My fiction's way better than my nonfiction at the level of the line. Like, I'm a really good fiction writer. I can get a lot of energy into a line, a lot of comedy and poignancy in my dialogue. So you want to support old Bruce? Buy books, okay? That's how you support me, and you get something out of it. I'm not getting a donation. You're getting something. I'm getting something. So everybody wins. This is a necessary migration. Muchas gracias, mi amor. Okay, and everybody's got to go through it. Okay, and so how do you do that? Well, you make up your mind to do it. That's it. And then the other parts of your consciousness start to bring it out. Remember what I said about the power of manifestation and the manifestation principle in our consciousness. Its highest utility: good questions. Okay, if you can come up with good questions, then that's very, very powerful. So, good questions are what you're looking for. And can I separate this? I don't know. Yeah, sure I can. Pop out the chat. There we go. Hey, hey. So, good questions are what we're looking for. And so you want to ask the questions like why, why? Like, why this, why that? And I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to take a while to figure things out. These things don't happen overnight. It takes years and decades to spiritually unknot yourself in a lifetime. But you only have to do it in one lifetime. You don't have to do it every lifetime, because when you do it once, you don't have to come back if you don't want to, or you come back under much different circumstances. Okay. There's still a few tricks they can play on you if you don't finish up in one life. I'll tell you something. Not many people know this, but people who come into the world and have no friction and everything goes their way, money is easy, love is easy, and they literally have a life where there's no bumps. that is the agents that want to keep them in the game, buying them off because their karmic disposition was so good and they were so close to gaming out and not having to come back to body that they were given this cherry life. And in that cherry life, they'll plant seeds that'll bring them back again. Okay, so this whole world is a fucking spider web. I shit you not. Okay, it's a spider web. That's not to say leaving is the ultimate thing for everybody. Like some people love it here and they want to come back, they want to come back, they want to come back. And I'm pretty much near my end. The end of this life's really good. My life's been fantastic since I came up here in my late 40s and built this house and settled in and got married again, and it's been fantastic. Um, but getting to the first 47 years before I came up here in my life were just brutal. From 0 to 47 was just a shit show. Just one kick in the nuts after another. Okay? And that's true for a lot of people. I got my call-in information there. I got you all hooked up. You'll go live on air with me, just your voice. Even if you call in on Skype, don't have your camera on. But you can call in at 864-810-1039, or you can friend me on Skype at Seen That Tinker 1. You got something to say, I'll bring you on air for 5 minutes or so, or however long it takes you to make your point. And it can be about this show or any show in recent memory, okay? And so tonight what I want to do, and the reason I titled the show The Gates of Hell, and I may as well stay with this theme, right? It's working for me. Yesterday was the spooky man, and some people find me spooky. A friend of 20 years or a friend of 10 years basically told me I was a demonic portal yesterday, right? You know how I feel about that if you watched yesterday's show. You know what my response to that is if you watched yesterday's show. I think it's a bunch of horse shit. That's how I feel about it. And so there you go. Let me see if I can spike this mic a little bit because it seems I'm looking at it now and it seems a little bit low. I'll just keep talking as I'm doing this. Come on, man. Come on, man. It's my Joe Biden impression. Come on, man. I don't know what's going on here. I'm just gonna stop playing with it. I don't wanna irritate it or anything. Um, okay, fair enough. Oh, maybe if I just go to the main Apple thing here. Got my stepson and his wife and their kids coming in on Monday for a few days. There's always people staying with me. And you know what? I just absolutely love it. Yeah, I can spike that a little bit right here. It's not quite up. Yeah, that is pretty much up at the top there. I wonder what's going on here, why I can't get this cranked up anymore. Okay, well, it's no big deal. It'll be the same volume as yesterday's, and yesterday's was okay, so I'm not going to worry about it. Aleister Crowley Light. Well, I'm not a huge Aleister Crowley fan. I think he was a lowland cunt. My people come from the Highlands. So, to hell with that guy. Um, okay, so what am I talking about today? I'm going to give you what I think is going on. I mean, I play around it in the books. I kind of come right out and say it in um, in The Devil in Us, but maybe not clearly and directly enough. So I'm going to try and say it tonight. So let's start here, okay?
Planet was telling everyone who will listen, I do not believe we should do this at CERN. We shouldn't do it. Let's not bang particles together trying to recreate the Big Bang and see what happens. Not to get too religious, but think of it this way.
Go for it. We love it.
What if we're trying to create the Big Bang? We're trying to play God. We're trying to create a Big Bang. And let's say at a microscopic level, we're creating a Big Bang. And that Big Bang is microscopic to us, but to the universe, it's a Big Bang. Who's to say that when the Big Bang occurred, spirituality sort of split up, and there is really demonic energy mixed in with the Big Bang?
Yeah.
So if you try to create the Big Bang, you may create portals to hell. And that is what they told the writers from the Wall Street Journal. Why would CERN be proudly saying that as a body, as a scientific body? It's so freaky. And when you combine that with the Mandela effect starting to be seen about that time, that's why my movie posits the idea, one of the ideas, just one, that CERN might be fucking up reality. And they may know it, they may not. There's one scientist who's gone, public in his own way. You see him in our show. He's sitting there with a sign saying, man, basically he's giving you a very clear indication. We are behind the Mandela effect. And James Bond's first, we'll get to James Bond in a minute about Mandela effects, but James Bond's first guy ever was named so-and-so. When you combine the two, little sign he's holding up, it basically says, when you take it all together, we're behind the Mandela effect. You got to see it. So the scientist is maybe, here's the other negative. He's joking. Why is he joking? Why would you be joking when people are already talking about CERN triggering the Mandela effect, and he's sort of confirming it with a joke? Why is he doing that? So there's also a scene in our movie where you'll see it, and this is very controversial. Talk about conspiracy and controversy. The scientists or friends of the scientists at CERN arranged for a mock sacrifice of a human being in front of the big Shiva statue, which is allegedly
yeah, that was
why
so
would
weird.
they do?
Can you find that real quick, XG? Whoever's controlling, can you find that?
You'll see it on July 9 in our movie.
So yeah, we'll have the links below in the show.
And the lame excuse for this, they're trying to show demonic belief at CERN. That's what they're trying to show. They're paying deity to the statue of destroyer of worlds.
Yeah,
and
Shiva.
making it's unbelievable this got out. And the lame excuse from CERN is, oh yeah, some people got out there, we're doing some mock whatever, and they're trying to downplay it like that, but they're not downplaying it that much.
Go all the way up to videos. There, Xavier.
You want to play a video?
I mean, it's a minute long.
Yeah, and all the mock came out later.
Well, it's like so funny because here it is.
They never said mock until recently, guys. Never. Mock is new. Mock is within the last, with a few years. They kind of tried to get behind, get away from it and call it a mock, say a mock execution or a mock. The idea is demonic energy is being their idea here.
100%.
Demonic energy is being opened up by CERN's particle collisions. That's their mocking. And what I find egregious is when they say they're mocking, what do you mean they're mocking? What are they mocking? Oh, they're mocking the idea that demonic forces have been opened up by CERN and they're paying homage to it and the concept, I'm telling you. Now, you also look at the fact that antimatter is created by some of the collisions that are going on. So antimatter is a byproduct of a lot of this. Antimatter cannot be stored easily. Antimatter is dangerous as shit. And antimatter, by the way, when they store the antimatter at certain locations around the country, certain very specific areas, there are people having effects, paranormal effects. Weird things are occurring. And the scientists are noting that. This is very important to understand that when I do a documentary, I don't care about other people. You're only seeing the.
Okay. So everything that's Sam Tripoli and Tinfoil Hat, great podcast. That was off his Rumble version of it, but you can get the audio version of it on Spotify and all other podcasting platforms. Sam does a good show once in a while. He's not consistently good, but who is, right? It's not easy to do a 2 hour or 3 hour podcast 2, 3 times a week, right? Or an hour every day like I do. Some days you're flat, some days you're bang on, some days you're in the middle. But that's a bang on podcast, one of the latest ones that Sam did, and that's really tied into what I said yesterday. And I was listening to that as I went to bed last night, and then I re-listened to it this morning because I fell asleep listening to it. But I heard that part before I fell asleep, and I thought, you know what, I got to talk about this tomorrow because this is everything I'm talking about in The Devil in Us, a memoir of you and me. Okay, so first of all, let's get everything right, okay? It's not the devil, it's not the demons, it's extraterrestrials, okay? And this is what is, it shouldn't be bothering me. I shouldn't be letting it bother me. I've said numerous times on my podcast, it doesn't bother me. I mean, as long as we all come to the same perspective, which is that we're battling something here. And, but I guess it does bother me a little bit, when people get it all confused because, getting the details right there's some merit in it. There's reasons that it's important, okay? So, number one, it's all extraterrestrial. The demons and the devil exist, but their job is mainly to keep the balance here between the negative and the positive and to make sure that you pay for your skin or you pay your karma. That's the devil's job, right? It's like the mob collecting money or even the bank. What's the difference? They both kind of brutalize you, right? But having your debts collected and stuff like that. So God has a debt collector, and that debt collector is the devil. Now, does the devil incentivize lending? Absolutely, because the devil prefers you to be in debt. Like I've said, I don't romanticize the devil in The Devil in Us, a memoir of you and me. But I tell you the truth about the devil. He's not the mortal enemy of man, the way the Vatican tells us, and the way these retarded evangelicals and spin-off religions, and most of the Christian spin-offs are their origin is Freemasonic, right? Which is Kabbalistic, which is Jewish. So we're in the grips of a giant Jewish psyop right now. And our basic reality is a Jewish psyop now. Because our religious thinking is all Jewish now. Because most of the Protestant religions have succumbed to Jewish influence, or they were started by Freemasons who are Gentile Jews studying the Kabbalah and other magical texts that have pretty much been preserved by the rabbinical circles, who strategically released them in the late 1600s, commencing with the formation of the Bank of England. And this was to build an intergenerational confederacy because there weren't physically enough Jews on the planet. And Jews were at that time, and still to a great extent even today, are sort of socially disliked. You get spanked pretty hard in the West if you're anti-Semitic, but that all kind of changed on October 7th, didn't it? Those of us in the know don't have anything against Jews. I mean, I know all kinds of super sweet and super loving Jewish people. It's not about, and loving Christ is not about the Vatican. You can't ignore it. Did I lose my internet connection there? No, I don't think I did. I just lost my VPN connection. So I just had a sign pop up on my computer saying your network connection is gone. So, but it's not. So Jews had a harder time with social mobility and stuff, and keeping the rule of these circles. They prefer to be unknown. Okay. Just like what I've told you about, the invisible stuff prefers to stay invisible. And if it declares itself to you, you've got it on its back feet in the boxing sense. Okay? Because it had to break cover. And it had to reveal itself. And its greatest strength is staying hidden. Like that predator creature. in the movies, right? It's got that flip it switches and it mirrors the environment around it and camouflages it, right? That's how these entities on the fourth dimension operate, and in great measure, that's how the Jews have operated for the last 3 and 3/4 centuries, as they have marched up to this point in history. Now, I have a lot of friends, who are very uncomfortable when I talk about these things, and I sometimes think that they're just going to disown me as friends. And these are people who, some of them make their living doing shamanic healings and stuff. They're fairly enlightened people, but look, you got to break a few eggs, man. It is what it is. And anybody who gives me a hard time about talking about these things, I would say back to them, tell me I'm wrong. Show me how I'm wrong, and I'll stop talking about these things. Okay? But right now, I see a very small group of people about to do a tremendously damaging thing to a whole bunch of other people. And I'm not at all happy about it. So I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to talk about it at the very least. But just like the entities in the fourth dimension and the demons, the Jews don't like having a spotlight put on them the way I do. And not many people do it with the kind of theological and spiritual acumen that I do it. A lot of people will rant and rave and get angry, and I don't do that. I just tell you this is what's going on. Okay? This banking system that we live under now is largely controlled by Jewish money. It has been since the Bank of England in 1684, I think. I'd have to check the date again. It's in the light of darkness. I tell you how that bank was formed. It was a battle for the crown between Cromwell and the Stuarts, and Cromwell was backed by a group of Amsterdam Jews. And it's very interesting. Like when we go back to that CERN thing in Switzerland, there's this area in Europe which is another part of the old Jewish stronghold. Okay, so the Jews were allowed in Amsterdam, and they were doing commerce out of Amsterdam at a time when they were still, not really welcome in a lot of other countries. And it was these Jews in Amsterdam who really, with William the Orange, sort of at that time, I would say, usurped the authority of Britain. Okay? Because it doesn't matter who's running a country if you don't control the money. The country is the body, and the money is the blood. What use is a body with no blood? So don't tell me you control the entity, the body, if you don't control the blood. The blood is, just as the blood in the body is the life force, the money in a nation is the life force. And if you don't understand that now, you're going to understand it very shortly as these Western economies begin to collapse under the weight of their debt. Okay? So, who would want to open up the gates to hell? Let's give that guy his due, and I do, by the way. Okay? So, again, I talked a lot in The Devil and Us and in Stardust Ranch, because I don't want you to think I've abandoned that book. I'm just taking a little break. You got to understand, it's a little bit, boring for me. That book's been in my life a little over 5 years. I've done so many interviews, talked about it so much that it's not the most exciting thing. So it's more exciting for me to combine all the themes, or to concatenate the themes and the ideas in all three books and talk about the meta themes, the things that I habitually write about, like portals, negative energy, gray aliens, which, as my friend experienced in his dreams and stuff, it can be very, very negative. I'm not going to say it isn't negative. It can be very, very negative, right? So I don't hold it against him. I mean, it is what it is. It's a very negative experience, but a lot of things in life are very negative. Like I always use the example of puberty. Puberty is very negative, but you got to go through it, right? You can't stay a child forever, and you can't stay a spiritual child forever. You've got to grow up, and part of growing up is going through these cycles you got to go through, and getting spooked a little bit and engaging these negative entities is part of spiritually growing up. Okay, so don't be afraid of them. And I know from speaking to or engaging with a lot of the listeners through the comments and stuff that a lot of you are on the same page. a lot of you are in fact going through these experiences and you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So you don't want to get afraid. A lot of the fear is stored right in the body, right? It's not actually, you as a spiritual being aren't afraid, but the human consciousness for some reason always is afraid. And I think the fear is built right into the body. Like the body has a reaction to these things. It's like the body has its own intelligence, its own consciousness, the physical body. Okay? And so it will react to things even if at the state of consciousness or lucidity as you are inside yourself, you don't want to react with fear. The body will react with fear. And this is what's going on when you have these experiences. The fear is programmed right into the body, and that's why you feel it. But there's ways to overcome it, and there's ways to go beyond it, so you don't have to worry about that much. So who would want to open up the gates of hell? Well, before we get to that, let's spend a moment on antimatter. Okay, let's take a look at this.
So if you imagine taking the simplest atom is a hydrogen atom. It's a proton in the middle, an electron going around the outside. And if we just think about the electron for a minute, special relativity tells us that because that electron has mass, it has energy. This is the most famous equation in physics, E equals mc squared. Mass is a form of energy. And we can convert different kinds of energy into mass and vice versa. So we can also think about visible light, like we see here. That visible light comes in the form of little particles that we call photons. But the energy in a visible photon is much less than the energy that an electron has in its mass. But if we go up to shorter wavelengths of light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and we get to something that we call gamma rays, but they're really just light. If you take this big beefy photon and it's coming along with all this energy, if it hits, say, a nucleus of an atom and produce actually two particles with the mass of the electron. So one of them will be an electron with a negative charge, and one will be a particle that we call positron with a positive charge. And they're always produced in these pairs. One is a particle and one is the antiparticle. So the electron is the antiparticle of the positron, and the positron is the antiparticle of the electron. Antimatter is really just another kind of particle that's there all the time in that simple picture. In that view, these things are all kind of equivalent. They're all sort of fundamental particles. They're produced equally. They have not identical properties, but they have these sort of mirror properties in a way. But when we come back to the universe that we live in, and not just the simple version, you look around and you say, okay, what do I see around me? Everything you see is made out of electrons. Everything you touch is atoms that are made out of electrons. And you say, well, where are the positrons? Because weren't they all produced at the same time? And that is a very profound question that we don't know the answer to. This is a great mystery in physics, is why is the universe, as far as we know, made almost entirely out of what we call ordinary matter? So one of the reasons to study antimatter, we think that it's going to tell us something very fundamental about the basic properties of the universe. This has always been the drive to understand the world we see around us.
Well, there you go. So that's what antimatter is, and antimatter is produced in these collisions at the particle accelerators, okay? And they are dangerous to us, okay? Don't let anybody tell you different. I mean, antimatter is not a good thing. As the guy in the previous clip said, they're recording paranormal events around the places they store the antimatter, okay? So there's all this stuff going on now, and it's all indicative, it's all part of this dark world, and you know the scientists are doing mock satanic they say mock satanic rituals, and again it's in this area, you know, which is also one of the hubs of the human sacrifice culture and everything. So you know, it's Belgium, it's Netherlands, it's Switzerland, and these would be the power centers of the ruling confederacy and it's human, okay? It's human in terms of its basic function and presentation. It's influenced by otherworldly things. There's no doubt about that, but it is human. If you're ever listening to somebody doing a broadcast, a podcast or something, and they say extraterrestrials run the Earth or the inner Earth runs the planet, again, I've been over this, but just say how, okay? Because nothing happens here without human agency because we're the landlords. Okay, so the way this place was set up, human beings are the property managers on this planet. We're the landlords. And it's kind of like, you could be a billionaire on a vacation in Mexico, but you can't do whatever you want. You still got to answer to the local police. You can't go around murdering prostitutes. Doesn't matter how powerful you think you are. You're from Belgium or you're from the United States. You're on vacation in Mexico. You think, okay, this is a second or a third world country. I'm just going to kill people. You can't do that because that geography has a jurisdiction and principalities that enforce that jurisdiction. Okay, and that's true of the whole planet. And this jurisdiction, the planet Earth, is maintained by us human beings. And anything that wants to operate here, extraterrestrial, demonic, or what have you, has to have the cooperation of a human being. This is why human beings are so fundamental in the chain of events. And so when you talk about portals being opened, whether it be at Stardust Ranch or at one of these particle accelerators, never for a moment forget that there are 8.2 billion portals on this planet that we know of, and they're all human beings. Every single human being is a portal in and of themselves. Okay? And once your consciousness has been compromised, whatever is in your consciousness can then go out and do all these things in the physical reality, some of them paranormal. And some of the people who commiserate with these entities, they feel important. The little human being inside feels important and says, look at me, I made that person have a heart attack, or look at me, I did that. And it's this thing they have riding with them that knows much more about how to manifest on this dimension, this physical dimension, than the human being. But the human being has created the doorway into this world by grounding that entity, that demon, or that extraterrestrial in their body. Okay? This is the straight dope, folks. This is how it all works, okay? This is how it all works. So revisiting a lot of the things I spoke about in The Devil in Us, a memoir of you and me, and The Light of Darkness, a warrior's tale for our time, this plan to decimate the human race, man, that AI is freaky, right? The way it captures, that is so freaky. This plan to decimate the human race, or to incapacitate the human race by cutting down its population dramatically by like 90% or more in a very short period of time, it has been in motion for the time frame I describe in The Devil in Us. And it's largely been done by a few groups of people. There's a Jewish component, there's a Vatican component. When I say Jewish, I don't mean it's the Jews. When I say the Vatican, I don't mean it's the Catholics. Okay? And there's other groups like the Black Nobility, which are the ancient bloodlines generally of Italy that go back right to the families that controlled Rome. They're still around, they're still wealthy, they're still powerful, and they're very occult literate as well. Okay? And they all have backup, extra dimensional backup. But they like to use proxies for the demonic stuff because they don't like to use their own bodies and stuff because it's too dangerous. So they use proxies. This is what the super soldiers are about. These are what all these mind-controlled assassins are about, whether it be Charlie Manson or 60, 70, 80, 90% of these school shooters in the US are probably being mind-controlled and tuned up and stuff like that. This stuff's going on in a big way as well. So what they're doing is they're making their play to control the world now, and they're making one of the things in the plan is to open the gates of hell. is to hell being a metaphor for a very negative dimension, a dark world that will absolutely freak people out who are not prepared for it. This is why it's better you inoculate yourself a little bit now. Get accustomed to the paranormal. Because if you don't have an object relationship with it, you're going to freak out and you're going to go crazy. Because this is coming. Okay? How do I know it's coming? They're telling you. They're telling you with the CERN experiments. They're telling you with the Mandela effect. Look at all of the anomalies in our reality right now. Okay? You know, whether you believe in the Mandela effect or not, it's real. Okay? It's really going on. And the best example, everybody's got their own examples, but the one I always give is the lamb lies down with the lion. It used to be what the Bible says. It now says the lamb lies down with the wolf. So I'm going to just see if I can do anything here. Get any of these AI gestures to work. Okay, I don't know how that happens, but it's kind of freaky actually. Um, Let me just check here. Wow, that's kind of cool. All right, there we go. Bruce under the spotlight. So this is coming, man. And some people would say it's already even here. I would say there's an unnatural level of negative entities in the human biosphere right now and the human psychosphere. Okay? Now, based on what I know is what's going on what's going on and what's coming, it doesn't surprise me that much because they're being yeah, I'm well aware of Jerry Marzinski. I actually interviewed him about 4 or 5 years ago on a radio station I was working for. I think Jerry's dead on, absolutely dead on. Um, so, no doubt in my mind there. Um, yeah, YouTube is not. Okay, so I hope I'm on there. I'm getting a YouTube thing. So this is definitely coming, and the whole, and of course, it's all leading up to the Antichrist, right? But it's going to be an elaborate deception to try to control us, and what they're going to go with is the Abrahamic scriptures. A lot of people have been wondering what they're going to do. Are they going to do Project Bluebeam? Are they going to try and convince us there's an alien invasion? I think they're going to go with the tried and true Bible because and getting back to this idea of artificial intelligence. One thing I do think artificial intelligence is doing right now is gathering statistics and emotional data based on our responses to things on social media and other venues to see which scenario to capture the human imagination and to shock and awe people with a display of mind-boggling um, intervention, whether it be extraterrestrial or religious. And this is another way of saying, well, what are they going to go with? Are they going to go with the fake alien invasion, or are they going to go with the whole fake Antichrist return of the Messiah thing? Okay? And AI would be used to calculate which one is going to work better for them. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I think that the one they're going to go with now, everything seems to be leaning towards the religious thing. Okay? And this is why we're marching towards, Jerusalem. And, going back to the devil in us, and when you look at the synergy between the narrative, this is unbelievable. There, I'm back. I can literally watch the drop frame thing in OBS, and I don't want to sound paranoid, but I mean it's uncanny to me that I've done so many podcasts without any problems, and this one has just given me so many problems now. It's because this one is a Tomahawk missile. It's right on point. So I'm going to go over everything again to make sure nothing was missed, okay? They're going to go with the Israel narrative. And in the short term, what it does is it captures the minds of these Christians, you know, and these, especially the evangelical and the Protestant Christians, and they will sacrifice themselves and their children for Israel because they're idiots. Okay? And if they understood what Israel and Judaism really is in 2024, they would be unbelievably sickened by what they're sacrificing themselves for. Okay? But that is what they're going to do in the short term. Okay? So that's what they're leading up to. And if you look at Israel and the extraterrestrial narrative have been in lockstep since the beginning. So the gates of hell are being opened by one group and one group alone, and I would give the Jews credit for this, okay? All right. So let's take a look at one other thing that ties this all together, and then maybe we can take some calls.
The Seal of Solomon, also known as the Ring of Solomon, is believed to have been a magical seal owned by King Solomon of Israel. The symbol has its roots in Jewish mystic beliefs, but later gained importance among Islamic and Western occult groups. It's believed that the ring allowed Solomon to command demons, genies, and spirits. It also gave him the power to speak to and possibly control animals. Due to this ability and the wisdom of Solomon, the ring became a protective symbol in the medieval and Renaissance era magic, occultism, and alchemy. The seal is mentioned in the Testament of Solomon, a text falsely ascribed to King Solomon but not considered to be canonical scripture by Jewish or Christian communities. In the text, Solomon speaks of his experiences building the temple. The Testament begins by telling the story of how Solomon received the seal from the archangel Michael. Accordingly, Solomon prayed to God to assist a master workman who was being harassed by a demon, and God responded by sending a magic ring with the engraving of a pentagram. With the ring, Solomon was able to control the demons, learn about them, and make the demons work for him. Solomon used the demons to build his temple and then trapped them in bottles, which he then buried. The seal is depicted as either a pentagram or a hexagram set within a circle. It is worth noting that these are simply interpretations of the Seal of Solomon, as the exact engraving on King Solomon's ring is unknown. However, the version that's widely accepted features a hexagram in a circle, much like the Star of David. In fact, the hexagram from the Seal of Solomon is believed to have inspired the Star of David. Another variation of the Seal of Solomon is referred to as the Secret Seal of Solomon and is a more complex image. It depicts mysterious symbols set around a circle within which is a tower-like image. The tip of the tower touches the heavens, and the base touches the ground, representing the harmony of the opposites. This representation of balance is why the Seal of Solomon is said to symbolize the links between science, beauty, and metaphysics, while bringing in the elements of medicine, magic, astronomy, and astrology. Based on the wisdom given to Solomon by God, the seal symbolizes wisdom and divine grace. It is also said to reflect cosmic order, the movement of the stars, the flow between heaven and earth, and the elements of air and fire. Other meanings associated with the Seal of Solomon are the same as those associated with the hexagram. In addition to this, the Seal of Solomon is used during magic involving demons such as exorcisms. This is still prevalent among people practicing magic or witchcraft. Certain groups of medieval Christian and Jewish people put their trust in the Seal of Solomon to protect them from darkness and evil. Today, it's commonly used among Western occult groups as a symbol of magic and power. The Seal of Solomon has a complicated history and is known for its mystical properties. Whether used for magic, religious significance, or to offer protection from evil, the symbol of the Seal of Solomon in its variations remains an important and respected image among various religious and spiritual groups. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more about other well-known symbols, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to click the like button and turn on notifications so that we can keep you updated when new videos are available.
Well, that's a fascinating symbol for many reasons. I think it's a very demonic symbol. I don't think it offers protection per se. But a lot of people talk about the number 666 in the Bible. Well, what do you notice about the hexagram? It's got 6 lines because there's 3 lines to a triangle, and there's 2 big triangles that form. So there's 6 lines, 6 small triangles, and then 6 shorter equal length lines. And the 6 lines in the triangles are equal length. And then there's 6 equal length lines inside the hexagram in the center. And the key word there is hex, which means to curse somebody, right? So I've always seen it as a very evil symbol. If it gives you comfort and support, I'm all about free will, man. That's your trip and good for you. I'm glad it works for you, but I think it's a very, very, very evil thing, and I wouldn't go anywhere near it. Okay. But I will tell you this. I think one of the secrets that the Jews hold, specifically the rabbinical circles, is an expertise in working with these negative entities. And if you look at their religious history, just look at the rituals, the cultural rituals, for example, Passover. Okay? What is Passover? Passover is the releasing of an indiscriminate force that will harm anything in its path. It's a spiritual force. The only relief you get from effect from this force is a mark or a seal or some kind of indication that this force, whether it be demonic or otherwise, when it sees this, you will not be part of its dispensation of indiscriminate destruction. Okay? So the Passover was created by the rabbis so magical rituals could be effected in a geographic area, and the Jews who were given the secret Passover symbol would not be harmed. I know, is Bruce going crazy? Is this guy crazy? I'm telling you, this is what I get intuitively, okay? I haven't read this in any special text. I'm not borrowing from anybody else's podcasts I've watched. This is the pure intuitive position of me. But it's not just intuition. It's years and years of reading various scriptures, okay? Mainly from the East, but some from the West. And this is what I think's going on. So when you look at the rabbis now, and when you look at the coming of Jerusalem and the Antichrist from the Jewish perspective, they say that the Gentile will be our slaves. And then when they interview these people, and there are people who have YouTube channels, and they go around Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and they interview Jewish people. And they say, hey, I have a YouTube channel, and they speak Hebrew. They're Israeli themselves. They're making money doing this. They say, hey, I'm Hebrew. Do you believe that the Gentiles will be the slaves of the Jews? And some of the more chauvinistic Jews say, oh, absolutely, they're meant to be serving us. Jews aren't supposed to work. We're holy people. They're supposed to build for us. They're supposed to do all our work. And our role is to spiritually guide and protect them, okay? That's what they say. Not being anti-Semitic, you can see Jewish people saying this on YouTube. You go to more liberal and humanistic Jews, and they say, yes, the Gentile will be our slaves, but you have to understand we're not going to force them into slavery. They will ask to be our slaves. Okay? Everybody will want to be under the protection of a Jew. Well, what could that possibly mean? Now go back to the first video I played you about CERN opening the gates of hell. Okay? So if you have think of it like the theological I got to be careful because I don't want to get another strike on YouTube. I got to think of another metaphor. If you're smart, you know what I was going to say right now. And I've actually communicated my messages and circumvented the algorithm. Okay, so let's say hypothetically, I'll use the example of Mission Impossible 2 with Tom Cruise and Brendan Gleeson. Okay, and Thandie Newton was in it. She was the female lead. So those of you who have seen the second Mission Impossible movie, they invent a medicine and then release a disease to run the stocks up on the company that owns the patent for the medicine. This is Mission Impossible 2. Okay? It's worth watching if you haven't seen it. I know I tell you to watch a lot of movies, and TV's probably not good for you, but I don't know. I like movies, and I study them for their story, their timing, and all of these sorts of things. But think of it as the theological version of that. So it's basically a multidimensional Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. Okay? The problem is demons, the reaction is panic, the solution is the protection of the rabbis. You see how it works? Except it's all far more literal than people think. And that's why I'm telling you folks, if you're starting to engage this stuff by reading my books, that should tell you something. It should tell you that you're starting to catch on. It should tell you that they don't want you reading the books, okay? They don't want this information getting out that I have in my books, because it is going with the disease metaphor I just gave. My books are a kind of homeopathic remedy to the disease. Kind of like using Rick Simpson tears, THC oil for cancer instead of chemotherapy. Okay? The books are a kind of medicine for this time. Are you going to engage the supernatural? I don't know. You tell me. A lot of people do. Okay? A lot of people do. And if you do, you do. That's great. All right, I'm just going to start to slowly wind down the show, but I do invite anybody who wants to call in to call in. It's 864-810-1039. Or if you don't have me on Skype, friend me on Skype at SeenThatTinker1. And there's only one of me, so it's pretty hard to miss. But I got my Skype open now, so if you pop up, I'll see it right away. But I think this is one of the more important and concise shows I've done. I've really sort of talked around and around and around this topic in a lot of my podcasts, but tonight I just come out and punch it right on the nose. This is what I think is going on. They're going to try and supernaturally fool us with some low-level fourth dimensional shit. And I guess in a way, if you fall for it, you deserve to fall for it. Okay? I mean, but don't fall for it. And don't be that worried about it, actually. Okay? It's not really that big a deal. And I don't think it's anything that you need to be super, super afraid of. But they're going to do this at a certain point, I'm pretty sure. I mean, everything is a variable. There are no guarantees. These guys, they have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things lined up that they could possibly do. And they're constantly looking at data, and they're constantly grinding that data and coming up with probability matrices for which one would work best. So is it going to be Project Bluebeam? Is it going to be the Extraterrestrials? Is it going to be a theological deception where they convince you that it's the end times and the demons are going to get you and all of this sort of shit, and the only way you can be saved is to accept that the world be ruled from Jerusalem by the Sanhedrin or something like this? Ostensibly creating what I would call Vatican III. A very oppressive theological rule, but this time instead of the shitheel Catholics doing it, it's the shitheel Jews. Okay? And they're all shitheels. Any one of these groups would be shitheel leadership for the world. The Muslims would be incredibly bad global leaders right now as well, as far as I'm concerned, okay? So I don't have any callers. It's been an hour. If nobody's going to call in, I think I'll wrap it up there tonight, but that's tonight's show. It's the Gates of Hell. And if you go into any one of these topics, the antimatter or the Seal of Solomon or CERN or any of this stuff, to any more depth, you'll see that everything I'm telling you is completely on point. Okay? So I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.